Welcome to episode 266 of the Ski Podcast, and thanks for joining us, listener. I'm your host, Iain Martin, and today we're going to be finding out about skiing in two very different parts of the world: Ski Juwel in the Austrian Tirol and Gulmarg in the Indian Himalayas. We also have more snow reports from across the Alps as more and more resorts open. Plus, I have news of a great new competition exclusively for listeners to the Ski Podcast, in which you can win goodies worth over £400. It's super simple to enter, and I'll reveal all in a few minutes' time. But before we meet today's guests, I'd like to thank Tyrol, Austria, for sponsoring the Ski Podcast and making this winter's episodes possible. If this is your first time listening, you've missed out on some great conversations already about Tyrol. We've covered Innsbruck, Ischgl, Tyrol West, San Johan in Tyrol, and the Ski Juwel area in previous episodes, with more to come. I recommend you catch up with these. I found them really interesting to record and to learn about all the different areas and the Lebensgefühl, that Austrian way of life that connects them all together. Now, today, we're going to be finding out about another region in Tyrol, Ski Juwel, and I'm delighted to welcome the person who's going to be telling us all about that, Joey Pearson. Hi, Joey. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you, Iain?
Yeah, good. What do you think about my pronunciation of Ski Juwel, or should I be calling it Ski Jewel, as most Brits would probably read it?
Yeah, either or. I mean, it depends. I don't think we're too fussy about it.
And you tell me, are you in the Ski Juwel region at the moment?
I am indeed. Yeah, I'm just sitting in my office in Alpbach. Yeah, it's a bit cloudy this morning, but the snow's good. Conditions are good so far. We've had some big dumps of snow, so it's looking good for the opening of all the lifts on Friday.
How exciting! You said you're in your office at the moment. Is it feasible to look out the window? Can you see the snow sitting on the mountaintops? I know you said it's
unfortunately
cloudy.
All I can see is the building next to me from here. I haven't got quite the nicest view in the world, but I know it's there. It's just around the corner.
Oh, excellent. Okay. And my second guest today, also making his first appearance on the show, expert on the Indian ski market, is Krishan Anand. How are you, Krishan?
All well, Iain. Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you.
It's great to have you on, and you're dialing in from another part of the world. Whereabouts are you just now?
From Jammu and Kashmir in India, up in the north.
Okay, well, we will be covering exactly where that is now, but you are near the mountains as well. Any sight of snow on the mountains?
The top of the mountains from far away, yes, but we're not ready to start ski season just yet.
Okay, cool. Well, let's talk about skiing to start off with. One of the questions I always like to ask my guests is, when did you ski or snowboard last? Neither resort has opened yet in the Ski Juwel area, Joey. So would I be right in thinking you skied last at the end of last season, or did you get any glacier skiing in the summer?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, end of last season. Luckily, because of the conditions, the area opened at the weekend just for sort of a bit of pre-season skiing on Saturday and Sunday. Unfortunately, I didn't get the chance to go up, but I will definitely be going on Friday when we open.
Oh, sorry. Did you say that was a pre-season opening that you had just now in Alpbach?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Is that quite unusual?
They managed to do it last year. It just depends on the conditions. And because we're not an incredibly high resort, can't guarantee anymore that there's going to be enough snow to do it. If it's possible and everything's ready to go, they do their best to open as soon as possible.
Well, it's been interesting looking at how many resorts have opened for what in France they call like a pre-ouverture, just for the weekend prior to their regular opening. And, that's really encouraging. And certainly in the UK, gets people really excited about the winter. What about yourself, Krishan? When were you last on snow?
The last time I was skiing was the end of last season, and the end of season in Gulmarg is usually during the month of March.
Okay, so you're skiing in March. Now, I'm really looking forward to finding out more about Gulmarg, so maybe I won't get you to spoil that now. We'll come back to that later when we chat to you about that. I mentioned that a bunch of resorts have already opened, and we have some more snow reports for you, sent in by some of our regular contributors. We've got Betony Garner, who regular listeners will know her voice. She was out at Megeve this weekend. They had a pre-ouverture there. Robin Shah was out in Verbier. He's really been enjoying the snow over there in their early season opening.
Hi Ian, it's Betony calling in with an early season snow report. So it's good news. I'm in the Mont Blanc Valley and we've had lots of snow and the snow is good. So this weekend we've had Flégère and Grand Montet open up in Chamonix. Flen's been open, Avoriaz and the Clusaz. And I was lucky enough to have a little ski in Megeve. They opened the Jaillet sector, so a few pistes open. Lots of people took advantage, but honestly, the conditions are great. Super great pistes, and up high, if you know where to look, there's still some lovely powder on the side. It's going to get a little bit warmer this week, but I did see there's going to be a tiny bit of snow tonight, which is Sunday night, but I honestly think that conditions will stay good. The resorts are working really hard to get the piste in condition. I've seen lots of piste bashers out, the snow cannons running when they can, when it's cold enough. So honestly, what are we? Early December just, and already conditions are great. So if you're heading out pre-Christmas, have a fab time.
Hi Ian, great to be with you for another early season update from Verbier, Switzerland. After the midweek storm delivered snow all the way to resort level, the forecast for a Bluebird Saturday sent the stoke through the roof. You could feel it the moment you arrived at Medron. First lift was buzzing, a proper hive of energy, everyone excited and ready to blast into what looked like a perfect day. And with the mountains gleaming in fresh white snow under the early sun, it absolutely delivered. Terrain-wise, we were still limited to the Attila Lac des Vaux sector, but the fresh snow to resort level opened up a lot more possibilities. The newly opened lift connection between Salettl and Ladner added even more scope for exploring. Saturday was most definitely a powder day, so we kicked things off with the classic warm-up lap off the Lac des Vaux ridge. Perfect, dreamy powder. Okay, time to go exploring. We headed for the Col des Mines itinerary, which although officially closed, was accessible as an off-piste option. The Friday evening sunshine had warmed the south-facing slopes, but traversing further round to the shady pitches opened up the cruisy, tree-lined slopes down onto the route to Savollère. No time to waste and straight back up for lap 2. And we opted for Vallon d'Arby on the route to Latsuma. The top delivered deep, creamy powder, proper hero snow for this time of year. The exit needed a little bit of bushwhacking through the forest, but it was brilliant to be skiing it in November, the earliest I can remember. In the afternoon, we pushed higher for Attila No. 1 couloir. It's a classic Verbier line, steep and sheltered, with a slightly awkward entrance that keeps the crowds away. A few rocks to navigate at the entry, but once in the chute, it was deep, fluffy powder all the way to Mayence. Thighs were burning, but what a way to end the day. Sunday brought cloudier skies, and the obvious freeride lines were more tracked, but the slopes were quieter and perfect for some early season piste cruising. A mellow contrast to Saturday's powder feast. From this weekend, the lifts switched to 7-day opening and conditions are great as we roll into December. And it's perfect timing because Saturday is the St. Nicholas celebration with free lift passes for anyone dressed as Santa, plus the openings of the La Chaux and Savollère sectors. It's always a colourful day on the hill, dodging Santas left and right, the atmosphere buzzing, and it really feels like the moment the season properly kicks off. Bring it on. This is Robin reporting from Verbier. Back to you, Ian.
Regular listeners will also know Marco Ladner, who reported for us about Ischgl in episode 263. He was there for the opening weekend concert, featured Rita Ora. Let's hear what he had to say.
Hey Ian, I hope you're doing well. I just want to give you a quick update on our season opening as we spoke about it. The concert with Rita Ora was absolutely amazing. Like, she did an incredible show and also the slopes were in a perfect shape. We also received some fresh snow the nights before, so this was better than we could ever ask for. We already did a few powder laps in the beginning of the season. I hope the same for you, Ian. I hope you're doing well, and we speak soon.
If you regularly listen to the show, you already know some of those voices as they often contribute. And as I mentioned earlier, I have a new competition for listeners. That's not quite true. It's not a competition. It's a survey. It'll take you a few minutes to complete it. You go into the draw to win some great prizes, conservatively worth over £400, maybe £500, including a full Tyrol backcountry backpack with shovel and probe, some very cool Vallon eyewear sunnies, a hat and water bottle from Les Arcs, beanie from Icon Pass, more other things as well. You can find the link to complete the survey only in the show notes to this podcast. I know I could get more people to enter if I shared it on social media, but to be frank, I only want to know what you, listeners to the show like and don't like, want more of or less of. So this is just for us. I'll put a link in the show notes. It'll be live until just before Christmas, and I'll pick a winner at random and courier your prize to you. So best of luck. Thank you for your time. It'll help form all the content I bring you in 2026. Right, let's move on briefly to Team GB. I mentioned in last week's episode, as we were recording, Kirsty Muir was taking part in the Ski Big Air in China. She only went and won it. It's back-to-back World Cup wins for Kirsty after picking up the win in the slopestyle in teen in March. What makes it even more impressive is that she had over a year out with an ACL injury and pretty much missed the whole of a season. I interviewed Kirsty a little while ago, a couple of weeks ago. I'll be releasing that episode early next year, a little bit nearer to the Olympic Games. But here's a sneak preview of us discussing her comeback. Yeah. I know you're a Red Bull athlete. Am I right to say that you were able to kind of tap into their performance centres to kind of help with that recovery? Is that right?
Yeah, so they have two performance centres, one in LA and one in just near Salzburg. So I went to both of them for a couple of weeks each, and that was really, really great because they have everything that you could wish for during a recovery. And also, like, they give you a schedule, and you were there like kind of a usual training time, like it was like, I don't know, 9 till 4 or something. And I felt more like an athlete there because I felt like I was just doing more and training longer. And that was really good. But then also at home, I had the support of like Scottish Institute of Sport, and I couldn't have got through it without them either. The physios there, the gym coaches, they all helped me so much through it all. So yeah, I had both sides, which was really amazing to have.
Right, let's move on to Austria, specifically the Ski Juwel region of Tyrol, which I think I should try and give the area its full name, which is Ski Juwel Alpbachtal Wildschönau. How did I get on, Joey?
Perfect.
Okay, excellent. It's sometimes described as a hidden gem, which I think is a bit ironic. It should be a hidden jewel. We'll come on to the different areas in due course. But I wondered if we could actually start with a little bit about you, Joey, because, evidently it doesn't sound like you're Austrian. How long have you lived in the area?
It's been my home now for 10 years. Yeah, how I came to be here was through my parents when I was a kid. We came here on holiday as a family, and this is where I learned to ski in Alpbach. Yeah, from small onwards, we came back year after year, and I was hooked on skiing anyway. When I left school, I decided I wanted to do a gap year. There was only one place I wanted to end up. Yeah, I came over, did a ski instructing course, got a job. The rest is kind of history. And I've never looked back.
I love that story because, like you, my parents took me skiing at a young age. It was actually in St Anton, also in the Tyrol. I can't say we went back there, every year because I think it probably became a bit too expensive for us. But I really like the idea that you wanted to do a gap year and you did went back out to the Alps. Did you say you did a ski instructor course? Make it sound very easy. I think that's quite a complicated thing to do to become a qualified ski instructor, right?
Yeah, the first course that you're set up to do here is called an Anwärter. It takes 10 days. It's 10 days intensive, ski training, written sort of class learning as well. Obviously, the whole course is in German, so that caused a bit of troubles at the beginning. But I was on the course. I met two girls who were going to be teaching in Alpbach as well. And we sort of, clubbed together and helped each other through. All of us managed to pass, and we're all still friends now.
And, thinking about people visiting and coming out, I think I read when I was doing a bit of prep for today's podcast that you are the secretary of the Alpbach Visitors Ski Club. Is that right?
Yeah. So the ski club has been running now for a long time, since the 60s. A really, really nice community of people. It was focused back in the day on training young racers. The focus has changed with the times a bit, and now we're focusing on training young kids until the age of 18 to be great skiers.
Do you mean specifically like British skiers? You're trying to train them to become racers?
Yeah, the focus back in the day was on that. So that was purely sort of, well, not purely, but it was, focused around racing, around race training. I think the chances or the possibilities of that became smaller and smaller. That maybe didn't also need to be the focus anymore. So now we're trying to provide training weeks that cover everything. They cover from not just racing, but off-piste, on-piste, all different sort of ranges and abilities, so that you come out, at the end of your training with us with great experience.
And evidently there'll be, whoever comes along will be dealing with someone who has a strong love and affinity for Alpbach over many, many years, from being, let's say, a child skier yourself. Let's talk a little bit about the ski area itself then. So full name, Ski Juwel Alpbachtal Wildschönau. Now, I know my German well enough to know that Alpbachtal means the Alpbach Valley, but how does it all fit together here then? Are we talking about two different valleys, Alpbach and Wildschönau? Is that what it is?
Yeah. So the Alpbachtal is the valley of Alpbach, and it includes Reit as well, and Inneralpbach. And the Wildschonau is the area of Wildschonau that covers the Auffach, Niederau, Oberau.
Ski Juwel itself then, that was created, let's say, in 2012, when there was a gondola put in place to link Alpbach and Wildschonau. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So the two mountains are now connected. The connecting gondola goes from the top of the Schatzberg, which is the highest point of the Wildschonau Valley, comes down into the Alpbachtal Valley, into Inneralpbach, where it then connects up to the Pergelbahn gondola, which will take you straight up the Alpbach side of the mountain.
And, connecting all of those together, it makes it a pretty large ski area, right? Do you know the number of kilometres apiece?
Yeah, 114.
So I think you said to me, it might have been in the green room earlier, but you're about 1,000 metres in Alpbach. What's the kind of top point in the lift area?
2,000, just above 2,000, yeah.
Cool. So linked together, you've got 114 kilometres. It's a big ski area. Let's tackle how you get there. What would your nearest airport be if you were looking to fly in?
Innsbruck, it's just down the road, 40 minutes by car. The train links are pretty easy as well, but the links are really good, and Innsbruck's pretty close.
Right, 40 minutes from Innsbruck airport. I mean, that is, in our episode when we covered Innsbruck earlier on this autumn. Innsbruck does connect you to so many resorts really quickly, and 40 minutes away is an incredibly short transfer time. So that's great. You mentioned the train as well. I'm always interested in the train, low carbon way of traveling. And if you were a British listener and you think about going out there by train, you could get the Eurostar up to Amsterdam, or, connect through from Brussels to Cologne and get the Nightjet train down. And I read that you can get a special deal. If you get that Nightjet train, you can actually get a discount that includes your lift pass and your ski hire all bundled into one. And Alpbach itself, what type of place is it? Is it a traditional kind of town?
Yeah, big time. It's, if you're looking for real tradition, real Austrian architecture, just everything, just the feel of the place. And, they live for their tradition, and you can see that in the architecture and the buildings. They are only allowed to build a certain type of house, so all the houses are not identical, but they're all built in the same style. So there's no big high-rise blocks of flats and things like that.
Fantastic. I think someone, I can't remember who it was asking me about how villages in the Tyrol compare with France. And while there are, some resorts in France that still have that traditional kind of chalet style, there's a level of apartment blocks, and you just don't tend to see so many of those in Tyrol, in Austria. And that is interesting about the planning laws you talk about there. So also I read as part of the preparation, and you make it sound like it's certainly a traditional village and very pretty, but described as the most beautiful village in Austria. Could that be true?
100%. Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, you've got to see it to believe it. It's a really, really special place. Yeah.
And so who would you say the skiing is for then in the Ski Juwel area?
although, you know, the two mountains are connected now, so it is a bit bigger, but it's still, in the scheme of things, I think a relatively sort of small enough resort that it's really, really geared up for families. You know, you've got, you know, lots of nice runs for kids and also, you know, parents who can or can't ski very well. Yeah, and it's got a really familial sort of atmosphere as well. You know, everyone's looking out for everybody else.
There's also night skiing. Is that in Alpbach or one of the other villages?
No, it's one of in one of the smaller villages down the road, right in Alpbachtal. It's been an awesome addition to your if you're here for just a week kind of thing. You know, it's another great experience to be able to ski, you know, under moonlight. The new tower at the top, the Hornbahn 2000, which was the new chairlift that was created. The viewing tower from there is epic. Like it's the view is really blow your socks off.
Cool. I'll put a link to that. I've done night skiing in Tyrol before, actually in Kutai, and you know, it's great fun. Not just like skiing, you know, night, which you know, for most of us is quite an unusual experience. But actually, when we went into the huts, there's a brilliant atmosphere going on. It seems like a lot of people just go to do a few runs and then do the social side of things.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's that side of it as well. But I think, you know, as a kid, to be able to come, if you're, you know, lucky enough to be over on a ski holiday for a week, being able to go night skiing to that, like, pretty cool.
And what about if you're staying on the other side then? So you're not staying in Alpbach, would it be Auffach? Is that where you're staying? What kind of place is that?
Yeah, again, really traditional, slightly bigger than the village of Alpbach itself, more spread out. The like the layout of the valley is more open on the other side. Like Alpbach's quite narrow and quite compact, whereas in the Wildschonau there's a bit more space. So Auffach's quite sort of spread out.
Cool. And you know, what would you say stands out to you then about, you know, Ski Juwel? Why would people come to that region and choose it for a holiday? I mean, you said it's obviously good for families. You've got night skiing, you've got some amazing views and amazing traditional architecture. You know, often I've referred to this concept of Lebensgefühl. Is there a sense of that? Could you elaborate on what you think that might mean?
The resort itself, I think now there with the connection of the two mountains, you've got such different types of terrain that you can cater to really a broad range of skier and you know what everyone's looking for. Are they looking for, you know, fast steep runs or slightly more cruisy kind of gentle slopes? So you're ticking off like lots of different types of skiers. Then you've got like the restaurants and the bars and stuff that you can have a good party at if that's what you're after as well.
I mean, you mentioned, you know, partying and the apres-ski side of things. One of the questions I've enjoyed asking all of my guests at Tyrol this winter is when you go into a mountain restaurant, you know, what your favourite pick from the menu is. And Kaiserschmarm has proved incredibly popular. Almost everybody has picked that. And I think, you know, listeners now will definitely know that. Do you have any tasty treats that, you know, are your preference that you pick out?
I'm an apfelstrudel kind of girl.
I think maybe people don't need any additional explanation on that. We know what apfelstrudel is. Beautiful tart. Groschtel has been mentioned before.
Definitely, yeah. I think the closest comparison we've got probably in English or, you know, in England would be bubble and squeak. So it's a bit of a mixture of potatoes, onions, bacon, and just what you've got left. But it's delicious, topped with a fried egg.
That sounds great, Joey. Thank you very much for that. If I put you on the spot and you had to pick out, you know, somewhere, let's say, for a drink for apres-ski to recommend to listeners, is there somewhere that you go for?
Yeah, staying on the mountain, the Kafna Ast. On the Alpbach side of the valley is a great place to sit outside in the sunny weather, enjoy hot chocolate and rum, and take in everyone else on the slopes. It's always highly entertaining to look back and watch other skiers doing their thing. So that's a pretty nice place to maybe finish the day off. Good party is always to be had at Joe's Salettl at the bottom.
Yeah, I had heard of that. I'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. Well, that is brilliant, Joey. Thank you so much for that. And great to hear that the resort has opened up early and you've got this weekend, everything opening up for the rest of the season. I'll put a link to all of the different things you mentioned in the show notes. And thank you so much for your time there. If it's okay with you, I'm going to turn to Krishan now. and we'll find out a little bit more about skiing on the other side of the world. India is a vast country. Population, I looked it up earlier, 1.4 billion. I've been there once, way back in 1994. And one of the things I'm certain of is that it has changed immensely in those 30 years. It's a tech giant, one of the fastest growing economies in the world. But what is not known for is skiing. So maybe we could start with you, Krishan. What's your background in skiing?
So, Iain, I didn't grow up skiing, but I did grow up around the snow. I was born in Jammu and Kashmir into a family that's into hospitality and logistics. Snow for us wasn't just recreation, it was weather. And as a kid walking in Gulmarg, I didn't think of the turns or lift tickets. In Europe, I feel the snow feels busy. In Kashmir, it feels empty. So the snow shaped me emotionally, I believe, long before I became a skier technically.
That's fantastic. I love the way that you express that. I mean, you've mentioned Gulmarg, so we might as well, let's deal with the geography right now. So if you can imagine the map of India, in your mind, is it possible to kind of point people to, where Gulmarg is?
Gulmarg is in the northernmost state of India, Jammu and Kashmir. You fly to Srinagar airport. There are direct flights from New Delhi, Mumbai, all the major Indian cities. And it's about a 60-kilometer drive to the resort.
Pretty close once you get there. I mentioned that I went there in 1994. I didn't actually go to Gulmarg itself. I did go to Srinagar. You were saying that snow for you when you were younger was the weather, not, your hobby. But is India waking up to snow sports? Are we seeing a real increase in interest amongst Indians in actually going on the slopes and going skiing or snowboarding?
Yes, dramatically. So for 2 decades, skiing in India used to mean older businessmen ticking off experiences of a list. But now I see young founders, designers, doctors, lawyers, people in their 30s with global exposure, and most of all, families. So Kashmir's slopes are now filling up with kids learning before they can even argue.
I love that. So if you're skiing within India, I think maybe there might be a lift over on like the Manali side or something like that. But most people would go to Gulmarg. What actually is the lift infrastructure? What's the setup there if you wanted to, do lift serve skiing?
So just a couple of things. We've got obviously a couple of T-bars and J-bars. And then we've got the gondola, which is the ski lifts going up. Interesting for all our listeners, Gulmarg is at about 8,900 feet above sea level. It is served by the highest chairlift in the world, taking you up to 14,000 feet above sea level from where you can ski down. So we've got 2 large cable cars and a chairlift going up, one of which is the highest in the world.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty amazing in itself. I think most people would probably be surprised by those altitudes. Just to translate that a little bit into meters, I think we're saying that that's 2,600 or so meters up to about 4,000 meters, just below 4,000 meters. Is that right? On the lift serve area.
The base of Gulmarg, when you drive and reach the resort, is at about 2,743 meters above sea level, so 2,743. In terms of the highest ski lift in the world that you get to ski down is at about over 4,200 meters above sea level is where you start skiing downwards.
I mean, for most people who ski in Europe, Valtrens is the highest ski resort in Europe at 2,300 meters. So you're already, high above that. And the concept of starting your skiing and getting off the lift at 4,200, which is higher than the Aiguille de Midi, higher than the Matterhorn Glacier Paradise in Zermatt, the 2 highest lifts in Western Europe anyway, is pretty amazing. I think I'm right in saying, though, that there hasn't been much development in that lift infrastructure. There haven't been any new lifts for quite some time.
Yes, you are right. So I'll just give you a little bit of let's go deeper into Gulmarg itself, really, right? Like I said, it's a natural Pir Panjal bowl at about 2,800 meters at village level. Gulmarg means the meadow of flowers. Mughal emperors used to holiday here. Yusuf Shah Chak discovered it. Jahangir loved it. The British turned it into their sports playground in the 1920s. It became a ski center, almost in parallel with early European skiing. Our Ski Club of India started in 1927. the history predates modern India. And then ski culture vanished after 1947 and through the turmoil of the 90s. And it came back through the Indian Army's high altitude warfare school, actually. And then the UNDP-backed Gulmarg Winter Sports Project and revived it internationally. So the last gondola, like you said, was completed in 2005. It's the world's highest gondola served ski lift in the world, topping out at about over 4,000 meters. Vertical equals Whistler Blackcomb single run. And this isn't a small novelty hill. It's true Himalayan terrain. We've also got one of Asia's only operational heli-ski destinations, limited volume, but a lot of focus on purity. So I think not adding lifts in decades while is an infrastructure challenge, it's also a part of the magic that infrastructure hasn't overrun it yet. It isn't a mega resort. Your ski bowls feel untouched. The reliability is great. It has one of the best snow lines in Asia. Some seasons are epic, others are thinner, like everywhere now with climate variation. But I think the snow remains consistent because of the altitude and the geography.
I mean, that is interesting. I'm certainly mindful or aware people are offering heli-skiing, backcountry ski touring trips around Gulmarg and in that area. I got to say that, when I went in 1994 to Srinagar, I didn't go to Gulmarg, but the reason I did go up to that area, evidently I was on my way to Ladakh, which I wanted to go and see. Regular listeners to the show will know that my mum used to live in Scotland, but before she lived in Scotland, she actually lived in India, and she was born in Lahore, which was part of India, at that time. Her father was a bank manager. And in the heat of summer, they used to send all of the women and the kids up to Gulmarg to get out of the heat of the valley. And it's interesting to hear that connection that you're talking about there, with the Brits, historically.
Interestingly, during the British times, Gulmarg was both a summer destination and a winter destination. And in the summers, it had the highest green golf course in the world. So I'm sure when your mother came, that's what would be happening in Gulmarg those days.
Right. Well, so therefore I have another reason to try and get there at some point. But one of the reasons, I asked you on the show, Krishan, is that, evidently, I mean, it's so interesting talking to you. Your knowledge of the area is fantastic. But you actually organise your own, tour operator, but your own ski trips there, specifically called the Secret Ski Party. I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, of course. So basically, think of it transform from a luxury ski retreat into a cultural micro movement. It's more about memory and connection and less about indulgence. So over the years, I got tired of seeing people travel thousands of miles and coming back unchanged. Luxury travel had become frictionless logistics, no soul, no emotional work. And I felt Kashmir deserved more than drive-by tourism. And people deserved more than consumption experiences. So I wanted to not just throw a ski event, but create something I call memory palaces, a space that imprints itself inside people, something they don't photograph, but something that follows them home. As I like to say, memories that last long after the snow melts.
Wow, I mean, that is so powerful. I'm completely with you on that. Yeah, you're talking about, coming back unchanged from traveling. I certainly did not come back unchanged from my travels to India back then, which were also internet and social media and things like that. And imprinting those emotions upon you made a massive difference to me. How do you incorporate all of that into your trips then?
It means deep curation, small numbers, no crowds, no chaos. We cap the groups at about 25 to 30 people. It's by invite only. You request an invitation. We hand select the guests. It's always a mix by design. Founders building real companies, artists, gallery owners, actors, fintech operators, global travelers who care about culture as much as comfort. What they share is curiosity. They don't want a luxury package. They want a transformation.
That is fantastic. I mean, it sounds great. You mentioned earlier that, originally or historically, people who were taking on skiing in India tended to be like high net worth individuals, typically older men. And now you're seeing a lot more of these young professionals who are getting involved. Right. It sounds like it's targeted really at them.
It is. So we look after everything from the experience begins from the airport. Private transfers arrive quietly. There are no loud check-ins, no desk queues. You're welcomed with Kashmiri spiced saffron tea while your luggage disappears. The rooms are already ready. No room numbers shouted out. Your mornings begin slowly with a session of snow yoga, saffron tea beside the fireplace. We don't rush the mountains. The skiing as well is very unique. Your guide is waiting for you in the morning outside your chalet or hotel with your equipment customized. No lift lines for our group. Tree runs, wide glacier bowls, heli days if the weather allows, long lunches on the slope. We have ski butlers for everyone who comes to ski with us. So from helping you strap on your boots, carry your skis for you, it's quite an effortless experience.
I mean, it just sounds fantastic. I will put a link into the show notes about that. I wondered if I could, while we have you on the show, evidently, understand a lot about the Indian ski market. You mentioned people going overseas on luxury trips and just coming back unchanged. Evidently, as well as that domestic market, and it's great that people are going to Jammu and Kashmir and exploring their own country. Are more Indians heading overseas for skiing as well?
Yes. 30,000 Indians skied abroad last season. They go where I would say cost meets curiosity. Kazakhstan, Georgia, Azerbaijan. These are the getaways. And then Europe eventually follows.
Right. Okay. Really interesting. I mean, we've covered Georgia on the podcast before. We might have touched on Kazakhstan. I'll have to look through previous episodes. But Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, and Georgia.
Things have become more accessible. After COVID, everyone thinks now is the time. With Instagram, everyone sees the snow. There is that awareness and everyone's aware. Now, what happens with Kazakh, Georgia, and Azerbaijan, it ticks off a couple of boxes. One, it's the travel abroad box that I went abroad for a holiday. I left the country. 2 is it's a new culture. 3, the flights are almost domestic pricing. It's about return trip from New Delhi, which is the Indian capital, between 250 to 400 pounds return. Resorts are well priced as well. And it's a great getaway, actually. A European ski trip, on the other hand, for an Indian traveler, turns out to be quite expensive.
No surprises there. It's expensive for us as Europeans. I think it's expensive for everyone. It might be more common for Indians to be going to the not out of winter, but as a honeymoon, or to see places like the Matterhorn and Mont Blanc or Jungfrau or something like this.
So interestingly, I feel Bollywood has done more for Swiss tourism than anyone else has. Like you spoke about honeymoons, Bollywood romanticized Jungfrau and Switzerland with Indian women in saris running towards their lovers. And in fact, there are famous hotels in the region in Switzerland, which have suites named after the Bollywood director and Shah Rukh Khan, famous actors here, who actually shot many of their movies there. So I would say Indian tourists in Switzerland, large numbers, but Indian tourists and not Indian skiers, and that's the difference.
Yeah, I get that completely. And so, it's so interesting. I think we could probably do like a whole big extended podcast on this, and maybe we'll have you back at another time. But I think for now, that's amazing, Krishan. Thank you so much. You're so informative about skiing within India and the Indian market. I really enjoyed chatting with you. But if it's okay with you, we're going to move towards the close now. Listener, if you've enjoyed this episode, or even if you didn't like it, I would love to know. You can leave a comment on Spotify, Instagram, or Facebook. Our handle is @skipodcast. You can drop me an email to theskipodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on WhatsApp. I post exclusive material on there ahead of each podcast. You can look in the show notes for that link as well. A couple of bits of feedback since the last episode. Paul Bond, who very kindly bought me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/ski podcast, said, loving the Tyrol focus. Let's give it a visit, we said, 50 trips later. Friendly, great ski infrastructure, and Kaiserschmarm. And then on YouTube, a user called Utilo said, love the show. There's genuinely nothing else like it. I just skip the environmental segments most of the time. I'm here to hear people talk about skiing, which is interesting. And that's sort of feedback I would love to have in the competition survey. So, do let me know what you think. And then that will adjust what I include in the show. So there are now 284 episodes of the Ski Podcast to catch up with. And when I looked this morning, the stats say 147 of those were listened to in the last week alone. So if you'd like to get some insight on a particular destination or the latest kit, just go to theskipodcast.com. Have a search around the tags and categories and you're bound to find something you'll find interesting to listen to. I can also tell you in the last week, around 50% of our listeners are in the UK, 20% in the States, and everyone else spread as far and wide as Costa Rica, Kuwait, and, I checked, India. If you'd like to help the podcast, there are three things you can do. You can follow us or subscribe so you never miss an episode. You can give us a review on Apple Podcasts or leave a comment on Spotify. And if you're booking ski hire this winter, don't forget, you can get an additional discount if you use the code Ski Podcast when you book at intersportrent.com. Simply take the link in the show notes and that discount will automatically be applied. But for now, I would like to thank my guest today, Joey. Thank you very much for joining us.
But yeah, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure.
And Krishan, thank you so much. I've really, really enjoyed talking with you.
Likewise, it's been an absolute pleasure to be on the show today. Thank you so much for having me.
And I would like to thank Tyrol for sponsoring the podcast. And finally, listener, thank you for joining us wherever in the world you're listening right now. And until next time, goodbye.